For centuries, a truth of immense importance has quietly existed beneath the surface of human history, hidden behind carefully constructed stories, protected by silence, and guarded by those who understood its power. History, as we know it today, is not simply a record of events. It is a version of events, chosen, edited, and shaped by those who held authority at the time. Every civilization, every empire, every ruling class understood one simple fact: that knowledge is power, and controlling knowledge means controlling people. Across centuries, libraries were burned, manuscripts were destroyed, and voices that questioned the official narrative were silenced, not always through violence. Sometimes through fear, sometimes through ridicule, and sometimes by simply allowing the truth to disappear into obscurity. Ancient texts speak of knowledge that was never meant for everyone. Ideas that could challenge the structure of society itself. Concepts that questioned who truly ruled, and why the world was ordered the way it was. These ideas were not always false. They were dangerous. Dangerous to systems built on obedience and control. In many early civilizations, priests, scholars, and rulers formed an alliance. One that decided what could be taught, and what must remain hidden. Sacred knowledge was reserved for a select few, while the masses were given simplified stories. Stories designed to comfort rather than enlighten. Stories that explain the world just enough, but never enough to question it. As civilizations grew more complex, so did the methods of control. Knowledge was no longer destroyed openly. It was rewritten, reinterpreted, and reframed in ways that suited those in power. Entire chapters of history were reduced to footnotes, while others were exaggerated to create heroes, villains, and myths that justified authority. Over time, people stopped asking questions, not because answers didn't exist, but because questioning itself became dangerous. Across different continents, remarkably similar patterns emerged, advanced structures that seemed impossible for their time. Mathematical precision far beyond what was officially acknowledged, and symbols that appeared in cultures separated by oceans and centuries. These similarities were often dismissed as coincidence. Yet coincidence alone struggles to explain such consistency. Some ancient builders left behind messages, not written in words, but encoded in geometry, alignment with stars, and placement within the natural world. As if they understood something about reality, something about time, and something about human consciousness that later generations would forget when explorers and historians stumbled upon these anomalies. Their discoveries were often filtered before reaching the public. Certain findings were locked away in private collections. Others were reclassified, and some simply disappeared, not because they were unimportant, but because they challenged what was considered acceptable knowledge. Throughout the medieval period, access to education was tightly controlled. Only a small fraction of society could read, and an even smaller group could interpret complex texts. Translation itself became a tool of power, meaning subtly altered, context removed, and interpretations narrowed. As printing spread, so did fear. Fear that ideas could travel freely, that people might compare texts, connect patterns, and notice inconsistencies. Censorship followed closely behind, first justified as protection, later normalized as necessity. Those who persisted in seeking deeper understanding often paid a heavy price. Labeled as heretics, outcasts, or madmen, their warnings were recorded as legends. Their insights reduced to superstition, their names slowly erased. Yet despite all efforts, the truth never vanished completely. It survived in fragments, hidden in folklore, encoded in art, preserved in oral traditions, and carried quietly across generations. In every era, there were individuals who sensed that something was missing, that the official story felt incomplete. These individuals noticed gaps, contradictions, and unanswered questions. They understood that history, when examined closely, reveals as much through what it omits as through what it includes. As modern science emerged, it brought incredible progress, but it also inherited limitations. Certain lines of inquiry were encouraged, others quietly discouraged. Funding, reputation, and acceptance became modern tools of control, not through force, but through permission. Discoveries that fit within accepted frameworks were celebrated, while those that challenged foundational assumptions were sidelined, labeled as speculative, unproven, or inconvenient. Even today, many researchers admit privately that pursuing certain questions can end careers. Technology has given us access to more information than ever before. Yet paradoxically, it has also made it easier to bury truth beneath noise. An overload of content, conflicting narratives, and constant distraction makes it difficult to focus on deeper questions. Truth does not always announce itself loudly. Often it appears quietly, in patterns, in repetition, in ideas that resurface across cultures and centuries. Ignoring these patterns does not make them disappear. It only delays understanding. When people ask why such truths would be hidden, the answer is rarely simple. Power structures rely on predictability, on order, and on belief systems that discourage doubt. Knowledge that empowers individuals reduces dependence on authority, and that has always been perceived as a threat. This does not mean that every hidden truth is sinister, or that every institution acts with malicious intent, but it does mean that history, like all human creations, is shaped by priorities, biases, and fear of losing control. Today, we stand at a unique point in time. Old barriers are weakening. Information once locked away is resurfacing. Connections once dismissed are being reconsidered. And people across the world are beginning to ask, not what they are told to believe, but why they are told to believe it. The real danger is not hidden knowledge itself. The real danger lies in unquestioned certainty, in accepting incomplete stories, and in assuming that what we know is all there is to know. Understanding the past is not about rewriting history. It is about reading it more carefully, about listening to the silences, and about recognizing that truth is often layered, revealed gradually, to those willing to look beyond the surface. Perhaps the greatest secret hidden for centuries is not a single piece of information, but a simple realization that humanity has always known more than it was allowed to remember, and maybe the truth was never completely hidden. It was simply waiting for the right moment and the right minds to see it clearly.